There hasn't been any other character in the game as unique as Tartaglia, who's not only a relentless damage dealer, but also an excellent teammate. One of the coolest things about Tartaglia is his playstyle. Even though his weapon of choice is a bow, his elemental skill completely changes the way you play him. And just like any other bow user, you can perform basic attacks or use charge shots, but once you activate his elemental skill, he goes into a dual blade mode. And unlike your regular bow attacks, these dual blades are made of water and deal hydro damage instead. What's even more surprising, the attacks you deal in melee are very similar to the ones you would do with a sword. You can perform up to 6 basic attacks in a row, or you can also hold the attack button for a charged attack. But this isn't the only thing that makes him special. In addition to him switching between his attack modes, he can also mark his enemies with a unique symbol that you will see appear visually on your foes. And the primary way you can apply these marks involves Tartaglia using charge shots with his bow. It also just so happens that Tartaglia has 2 different elemental bursts, which depends if he has a bow or dual blades equipped. So if he uses the burst with his bow, he shoots out a massive arrow that deals large damage in an area and also puts a mark on every enemy affected. But when he has his blades out, the burst deals even more damage, and if the enemies were already marked, the status effects will disappear and deal another powerful hydro blast. And what's even more amazing, this isn't the only interaction with the special status mark. In total, there are 4 ways you can use these marks. If you shoot your charge shot at an enemy who's already marked, they will take continuous AoE hydro damage and the mark will remain on the enemy. But if you defeat someone who already has the mark, then they will explode and deal hydro damage to surrounding enemies. And finally, anyone who's marked and gets attacked by your hydro blade attacks will also take additional AoE hydro damage. And of course, as previously mentioned, you can also cause the marks to explode with your hydro blade's elemental burst. Basically, Tartaglia excels as a damage dealer if he first marks his enemies with either his charge shot or by using his elemental burst, but this only works if he's using his bow. So as you can imagine, the ranged attacks from his bow will be used to first engage the enemy and mark as many of them as possible before switching over to his dual blade mode and finishing everyone off in sight. The last thing that's very important to understand about Tartaglia would be his elemental skills cooldown. There are some restrictions when it comes to using his dual blade mode, the first one being the duration itself. Once you activate it, you only get roughly 30 seconds before the skill will end and you will return back to your regular bow. Now the tricky part comes next. When you're using your dual blades, you can press the elemental skill button and immediately return back to your bow. And the reason why you want to preemptively end the skill yourself is that if you let the dual blade mode run its course, it will go on a very long cooldown. But if you deactivate this mode manually, you get rewarded with a shorter cooldown depending on how long you were using the blades. So as you can imagine, it will take some time and intuition to develop a good sense of when to start and end your hydro blades. And this is one of the few characters who has an interesting learning curve and will be an exciting challenge for those who are interested in mastering this mechanic. All in all, Tartaglia's playstyle will revolve around 3 major mechanics. He will mark his enemies with a bow by either using charge shots or elemental burst, and he will also constantly switch back and forth between his hydro blades. And finally, the marks you leave on your enemies can be activated in several ways to deliver large amounts of damage. Exploring the world and building a team with Tartaglia is going to be an exciting discovery process. One example would be to use pyro characters to set up a vaporized elemental reaction. So if you mark the enemy with Tartaglia and use any pyro character to apply fire status effect, you can go back and activate your dual blade mode and execute the elemental burst, which will result in a massive vaporized attack accompanied with the mark's explosion damage. Another cool example would be to use electro teammates, since hydro creates a really good elemental reaction. You could either use your charge shots, which will deal hydro damage, or equip the blades and go through some enemies before switching over to an electro character and going wild with the electro charge reaction. And the same could be done the other way around. Put electro status on as many enemies as possible first and then switch back to Tartaglia and unleash a series of devastating hydro attacks. And of course, let's not forget that hydro counters pyro enemies, which is going to make some abyss floors a walk in the park, especially the ones that have those pesky pyro abyss mages. It's also worth mentioning this is the 4th hydro character in the game that doesn't have any support abilities unlike others, and it's safe to say that he's going to be the first dedicated damage dealer for the hydro element, even if Bona can unleash those elaborate yet deadly combo attacks. Now the last thing that makes this character a powerful addition to your team is the special passive talent. Unlike many others who give various exploration or crafting bonuses, this one increases every party member's basic attack talent level by 1. And this is a major upgrade, especially once you reach talent level 6, where you will only be able to upgrade only with the weekly boss materials, which can potentially take weeks if not months to do this. So as you can imagine, any physical damage dealer is going to be extremely happy with Tartaglia in their team. The initial impressions of Tartaglia are very good. It's clear that he's going to be primarily dealing hydro damage to enemies, and the bow acts more like a symbolic weapon that's mostly going to be used to just mark the enemies before entering the dual blade mode. And it's also going to be interesting to see what sorts of builds work best with him, since he's pretty unique, although it's obvious that a goblet with hydro damage bonus is going to be a major artifact for him. And it's important to note that the current trend with team building was mostly either pyro or electro teams with various other elements, and hydro hasn't been the element that was built around except for very few team variations, so it's exciting to see what sort of team compositions will emerge with Tartaglia. In terms of whether you should pursue this character or not, really depends on your situation, but the most obvious factor would be to consider if you will enjoy his playstyle. It's extremely crucial that you first test him out from the free demo trial and form your own opinion of him. But he's definitely the most unique character in the game as of now, just from the sheer amount of mechanics he brings with him, so there's definitely going to be a learning curve in order to maximize his full potential. And because there's only so few hydro characters available, two of them being more or less focused on supporting, it's great to see that we finally get a dedicated hydro damage dealer. So all in all, Tartaglia might just be the character that will shake up the entire meta of team building as well as bring some new innovative mechanics in the game. Enjoyed the video? Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification on, as well as gently press the like button. Also, check out more of our videos recommended for you, or even visit us at gachagamer.com for an up-to-date tier list. Thank you for watching us.